Hey guys, welcome back to Iron Moose 5-ton. This video is going to seem a little weird because we're actually making this video once we're into the project, but I figured this would be really good information for somebody that might have a similar problem that I did, so we're going to make a video. So this is going to end up being the first video, but we're into the project, so I'm stepping back and explain what we're doing. These are your valves next to your driver's step. Let me back up here. I'll show you where we're working. Okay. This is a 923A1. And these are your valves outside your driver's step. This quick release valve, QR1. This valve is brand new, was just replaced by me. That valve is obviously okay. You have your inversion valve, which is in there. This hasn't been touched. I don't think there's a problem with that. We're gonna hope there's not. Then you have your one-way valves. Your quick release valves. I'm sure that's what they are, quick release valves, or the one-way, a double check valve. Excuse me, double check valve. So they allow air to go one way and bleed the system, but not backfeed. All right. So there's a little thing in here. We'll show you over here that moves back and forth. So it's just one double check valve. I don't know the part diagram numbers, so I'm not even going to state them. But if you do look at a part diagram and use the P2P program, it'll tell you what actual numbers these are. I'm not replacing them, I'm just cleaning them up and rebuilding the inside. This one looked really clean. This one I just kind of cleaned up, lubricated a little bit, and we're gonna see if this fixes the problem. The second one we just took apart, which is over here on the tailgate of the truck, was actually a little corroded, so we're gonna go into that now. But that's gonna be a second video, and that's gonna be behind another video I made cleaning up in the laundry tub. So this is just an introduction to what we're doing. Check valve. This check valve was just redone. The other check valve we're in the middle of doing now, and we're going to touch base on that in a second. Why we're doing all this? If I press in the spring brake button on my dashboard, my tanks just bleed air. My secondary tank bleeds off first, and then my primary tank obviously follows it because it wants to equalize. If I release the handbrake, the parking brake on the floor next to the driver's seat, my tank bleeds air. Secondary first, primary follows it. The brakes will not release. It bleeds off very quickly. I'll go from 120 and the blow off with it applied to, if I do one of the two, we're down below 60 within 10-15 seconds max. Sometimes quicker, sometimes not. So obviously the spring brakes won't release. You can't drive or anything because you'll bleed the tanks off completely within 20 seconds. So obviously something's not working properly. But we're going to see if this fixes the problem, and if it does end up fixing the problem, this will be a great video, and this will be a great 3-part series I'm going to part together and put on my YouTube channel that we're actually going to make. It doesn't exist yet. You guys are lucky. This is a video being made before the YouTube channel exists. But we're going to really start making videos here and putting this information out there for the other enthusiasts and other owners. Because, hey, you guys have been great helping me. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to return the favor as much as I can. But alright, let's get to it. Hey guys, welcome back to Iron Moose 5-ton. I'm going to address the video that such as this is a video I'm going to make before the YouTube channel even exists, but I think this might be very good information. So, long story short, brake issue. If I push in spring brake override on the dash, my secondary tank bleeds off. If I release my parking brake, the hand valve next to the driver's seat, secondary tank bleeds off. Brakes won't release. Truck is stuck where it's at. Numerous posts on one of the Facebook pages has led me to guys telling me one of the double check valves is bad. So we're taking apart the 3 main ones today, the 2 that are inside the driver's step area, and then the one on the inside of the frame directly in the relay of that. This one is the bottom of the 2 inside the driver's step. This is not moving freely. The other one moved freely. The other one didn't seem too bad. This is a interesting find. And it does appear, if I can get the camera to focus, that it's corroded a bit. So this guy is not moving freely. I can almost barely move it with my thumb. So this could be it. This could be the culprit of our problems. But let me get this cleaned up see if I can get this one to operate properly. I'm pretty much going to wash it. I'm going to hit it with a wire brush real quick. I'm going to clean it all out. And then I'm going to put some 100% silicone. Nothing with petroleum or petroleum distillates in it because it'll eat away at the rubber. But 100% silicone is actually used for gaskets and valves of such. Actually, I used to use it in the airsoft field for airsoft guns because they have a lot of rubber in them. And you can't use things such as PP Blaster, WD-40, stuff like that. That stuff will eat away at rubber over time. So, let me get this cleaned up. I'll use some silicone of that nature. I'm also going to use some super lube. It's 100% clear silicone, food grade. I'll show pictures of that stuff later. If this does end up being a culprit, I'll probably spice more of this together. Sorry, I'm trying to get this to focus here. It's being a pain. Come on, phone. But yeah, let's get this cleaned up, and I will keep you posted. Alright guys, so here we are. We cleaned up the check valve. I just used normal soap, Dawn dish soap, or whatever. I want to get everything off of it. I used a wire brush on some of it. I used just a normal scrub brush on the rest of it. You have to be careful. There's these little rubber things here. You don't want to damage it. However, this is the actual check valve. So here's your valve. This is the one part of it. This is the other part of it. And these guys go together like such, right? And you take it apart. Right, and then this guy's inside here, and this is actually what moves, right? And you can actually see already, I haven't even lubricated it, and look how much easier it's moving back and forth than what it was in the other video in the laundry tub. So, this little guy, actually, I took out to the garage, and I hit the metal with a little wire brush, like a drill wire brush. Like there's wire brushes you can put in drills. And I just held it with a pipe wrench a little bit like that, and I hit the top of it, and I rotated it, held it with a wrench, hit the top of it, and I just did it over and over until it all cleaned up, because it was corroded on the outside. So that's all cleaned up. This little guy, let me put the phone down for 1 second. I only have two hands here. That little guy pops out, it goes in there. So if you popped it out, no big deal. This O-ring here, this is an O-ring. This prevents the two halves from leaking. Mine's in great shape, so I put some super lube grease on it. There's the super lube grease. It's not an endorsement for super lube in any way. I love this grease. I've been using it for years. I used it in airsoft, I use it in here. Any O-rings, anything I rebuild, I use it on. It's 100% synthetic. It has no petroleum distillates or petroleum in it. And it's food grade safe, so it is pretty straightforward. 100% silicone. There's nothing else in there. So I'm going to put that on the O-ring and the O-ring only. And then let me put this back together real quick. Put the phone down real quick, but you'll still hear me, so I'll stop that back in there. And then I also have this stuff here. This is just this is actually from airsoft as well. It's just another 100% silicone, so you don't have to use this stuff. You could use anything 100% silicone. Just stay away from the petroleum distillates, WD-40, stuff like that. That stuff will eat into rubber over time. So again, no way an endorsement for this company. I honestly don't even know if they're still around. I haven't used this stuff in years. It's 100% silicone. I shook it up before. I use this stuff though over the super lube because of viscosity. This stuff's way more flowy, more liquidy. You don't want to put a thick grease in here because it could potentially stick this as well. Remember, this only has air pressure behind it to move it, so we use a very little bits. Obviously, this isn't in the air system, the O-ring, so you can put some decent amount of grease on that, but you don't need too much. Obviously, don't overdo it. You're just gonna waste it. But for this little guy, I'm just gonna put a little touch of that stuff down inside here. See if I can point to it. Down inside, obviously in here. And then on this guy, on the outside, I'm going to treat both rubber ends. And obviously, again, don't use too much. We're going to get it moving. I'm going to put it back together. I'm going to shake it to get the part moving around. You'll hear it move. It should shake nice and freely. And then we're going to put it back together, and we're going to move on to the third one. I honestly don't know if this stuff should be lubricated. I'm kind of trying to go above and beyond. I like to do stuff right. I like to do stuff thoroughly. And I get it, it's an air system, you don't want water, you don't want oil in there. But again, this stuff is straight. It's very little bit. If any of it does get down the lines, I'm sure it's almost going to do nothing. If we do end up finding out that it does something bad, you know, more work for me, but hey, you know, lessons learned. We'll go back and clean it out, but I don't see how it could. You know, it's metal on metal. A little bit of lubrication never hurt anything. It's rubber. It'll help protect the rubber. So as long as you don't use too much, you know, hey, to each their own, I guess. If you guys don't want to do it, then don't do it, you know. But hey, I will definitely let you know how it works for me. I think we got everything here. Oh, one last thing I'll mention. Let me grab it over here. As I'm putting everything back together, I'm using thread sealant. You can either use Teflon tape. Sorry for the phone a minute. Trying not to spill it. Or I use this stuff. It's literally liquid Teflon tape. So I'll show it to you guys there. Again, not an endorsement for Permatex in any way. Just something I use, something I like. It seems to work great for now. You can make adjustments up to 24 hours, they say. But after that, it does start to kind of cure. And that's great too, because if you plan to do anything with your truck, you know, off-roading, rescue stuff, anything of that nature, it's an extra sealant, so water and stuff like that from the outside doesn't really end up in there. So it also prevents all the connections from leaking and stuff like that. That's really important. You know, you use them in air will find the path of least resistance to leak, trust me. So anything that's not super tight or anything of that, you know, it will leak. So thread sealant on all airlines and all thread seals are great. Plus, I found so far, it also helps stuff go back on smoother. You know, you lubricate the threads up, you minimize your risk of cross-threading, because it's brass. Remember, brass is very soft, and you can cross-thread brass very easily. So always hand thread stuff on first, then use the wrench, you know, stuff of that nature. One last comment I'll make, which doesn't have anything to do with that, but is in relation to this stuff. These things can be a pain in the neck. So when the military puts these together, or anybody else that does these, they obviously put them all together and they paint them. They paint everything when it's together. So this stuff gets stuck together a lot of times. Plus, it's brass, so brass can corrode, and these knuckles here on the line can also corrode. So you have to be careful. Sometimes this won't spin. It's corroded. So get it off without twisting the line too much, however you can do it. And then I ended up having to take my wrench, and actually without hitting anything, I just beat it a few times, and it did come off. Then I went back with that red silicone, and I just lubricate up a little bit, and look, it spins great now. It'll slide down the line, you know, everything, and I'll have no problem putting them back together now. So that's something I would definitely recommend too when you go to put the part back on, because if the line, if these couplings or these threads don't spin around the line how they're designed, it's going to start to twist the line. And these lines are not very flexible. They're hard plastic lines, and you can actually kink them, as you can see down here a little bit. Actually, I kinked this line the first time I put it on, and now that kink really won't come out. So it's not crazy, it's nothing super bad, it's flowing fine, but just something to keep in mind. So hope this is helpful, and I don't know if there'll be any follow-up videos after this. I'm sure we'll do a finalized one of it put back together, and then of course we'll do one if all of this fixes it, or there's still issues and we need to keep going. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope this is helpful. Any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Alright guys, we are back, and man, do we have good news. Oh, thank God it wasn't something more involved. That's all I have to say. You know, this was involved, but this was simply a major learning experience. The truck moves. The parking brake works properly. The spring brake override works as it should. Actually, I'm hearing all the springs creak in the chambers. I never heard that before. So I'm kind of curious if the brakes were not even fully working in their old state, because the brake system's even more efficient now, because we replaced, so the treadle valve for the brake pedal was replaced. All of that was replaced with the line, like not the lines, but the actual treadle valve itself was replaced. I took all the lines off, I resealed it all, I put all the lines back how they were. The lower brake pedal, I sealed it up and attached that to the treadle valve. I reused the actual brake pedal part, but that was replaced. So actually we'll jump up in the cab and I can show you. So let's see here, not make it too dark, but treadle valve, probably see better on this end, the sun's blinding me, sorry. Treadle valve was replaced, upper portion. I reused the bottom portion. Instead of putting a gasket in here, there's a gasket that's like actual stock. It didn't come with my treadle valve. If you buy it, like I bought this as a direct Bendix part, or Haldex, it's Bendix. I just used a silicone sealant. It's one of the Permatex ones I really like, but I used that. It's gray, and that worked excellent. So I sealed that up. I let that dry for like a week. I painted it. I Herculined it. Herculiner spray can. So, you know, I like to do things right. I'm a little anal. So, painted it up, got it all together, and then obviously Teflon every one of the connections, put it all back together. So that's brand new. And then the other problem we were having was this valve down here. So the driver's seat's not bolted down because we're about to lie next to the cab. But this valve down here, this guy, was bad too. So this is a brand new part as well. We cleaned up the lines. I Herculined these two. I taped it off about halfway. You can see there's the line there. Thread sealed all these guys too with the thread sealant, and then put all that back together. So this is not the problem. Treadle valve's brand new. All this stuff's working good. So let's go back outside here. Sorry, there's gonna be a splice there. There's 80 million things going on in my house right now. So it was a bad double check valve. One of the double check valves in the driver's side step was stuck. I don't know if it was an open position, closed position, halfway between, whatever it was doing. It was actually the, let's see if you can see it here, this guy here, the bottom one. So there's only two in here. It was the lower one. I took all that, like I said in the previous video, cleaned it up. So the one you guys saw that was taken apart was that one. So took all that apart. We don't know if that was the only issue. So the treadle valve and the valve in the cab with the handbrake, the roller valve, those were explained to me that they were bad from a shop I had the truck at. That shop works on exactly the same model truck, and it's a fire truck. They work on fire trucks. They told me those two were bad. I decided to do the work myself, one for learning experience, two to save money, because labor rates are ridiculous. Plus you should know your truck, so you can do stuff yourself, do it. That's my theory. And it teaches you a world of knowledge. So I also replaced, because one of the guys recommended the quick release valve QR1. That's a brand new valve. That was only 20 bucks. So instead of rebuilding these guys I found were 40 or 60. They're 40 bucks a piece for the quick release valves. If you need a new one, buy one. I just rebuilt the inside though. They're pretty simplistic valves, as you can see in the previous video with it open. So you really can rebuild that. Only point I could see if you need to replace it if the rubber is damaged or broken, or like that O-ring's leaking. But besides that, yeah, so that was it. Stuck double check valve, cleaned it up, put everything back together. I did not touch the one on the inside of the frame rail. I might take that apart and do it later, but right now we're out of time for today, and the truck works again, so the truck can at least be moved. So that was our big problem. It was in a good spot where it broke, but at the same time it also needed to get moved for some stuff. So yeah, hopefully this will help anybody else that has this problem. Any questions, feel free to reach out, ask. I'll be splicing this together in probably a 4 or 5 part series, so if you notice some splices in the videos, that's why. But hopefully this helps. I want to thank everybody for their help and their comments on the post. It was a wealth of knowledge from all you guys. It's invaluable, honestly, so thank you very much. And that's why I decided to go out of my way and make this video, and I hope to make more. I used to do an old YouTube channel, so I'm gonna start one doing the truck here, Iron Moose 5 ton. And really, I mean, videos are the best way to explain something, because you can show people and everything, and it flows so much better. So thanks again, guys. And if anybody's curious, again, in the other video I stated, this is a 923A1 series. It's between 1984 and 1986. The engine was rebuilt. The truck was refurbed in 2010. The engine has the stamp code of 2010 on it, so I'm sure it's got parts from both. But thanks, guys, and catch you in the next one. Iron Moose 5 ton. See ya.